Hello everyone, Ryan here. So, recently had the pleasure of attending a movie premiere. Of course, the premiere of the movie titled Blaze, and is directed by Ethan Hawke, stars Ben Dickey, and it also stars Aaliyah Shawkat, and then a lot of other pretty recognizable actors. So, I'm going to go ahead and talk about the movie first, and then I'll talk about everything else, because it was pretty awesome. So, the movie Blaze, it is about this country musician, I guess you could say, or rather, country singer-songwriter, who went by the name Blaze Foley. And it's definitely an interesting movie. It's different from most biographical movies in that it doesn't follow a strict linear storyline. It kind of jumps around between different periods of Blaze Foley's life. I mean, primarily the time period in which he was writing a lot of songs and then traveling to different cities, playing at all these different bars. And so because of that, because the story is non-linear, it gives the movie this, I mean, I don't want to say artsy feel, but I guess if that's, because I don't know how else to describe it, it's definitely a very artsy feel to it. But also a pretty authentic feel to it. And then add to that the cinematography, the way everything has been shot and recorded, and definitely adds like interesting tone to it. And but yeah, I mean, I only bring that up because I have seen a lot of other biographical movies about musicians or just artists and creative people, and while there are a lot of other good ones, but for me this one stood out from the others because of the fact that again, like I said, the non-linear storyline, but also because of the performances in this. I didn't know what to expect from this movie. I'll admit that I didn't know. I had never heard of Blaze Foley before this movie. I mean, luckily I was invited by a friend of mine. Her name is Lisa. Thank you, Lisa. I know I've said thank you to you, I don't know how many times, but she was kind enough and awesome enough to not only tell me about this movie premiere, but also invite me. If you want to check out Lisa's blog, I'll provide a link to that. You can check it out. She writes about movies, sometimes books, mostly a lot of like everyday life stuff. I mean, her blog is lifeofanelpasowoman.com, and so yeah, I mean, if you want to check it out, I'll provide a link to her blog. But anyways, like I said, after she invited me and I did some research about the movie, read a couple articles, and that's when I found out that Blaze Foley was, an actual musician. And unfortunately, yeah, he didn't receive the recognition he deserved while he was alive. He also, unfortunately, he passed away when he was 39 in a tragic accident. I don't want to give away too many of the details, but he ended up being shot in the stomach, I believe, or at least somewhere in the abdomen area. And yeah, that's what killed him. And so I mean, because of that, the way it ends, it's kind of an abrupt ending, but not really. But still, the rest of the movie is great. The performances are great. Ben Dickey, who I believe this is supposed to be his first starring role, and not only that, but his first actual movie credit. But Ben Dickey, he's a musician himself, so And also, I guess he also happens to be friends with Ethan Hawke, because he had mentioned after the movie that him and Ethan Hawke have been friends for a pretty long time. I think he even said, like, since they were kids or something like that. And so I guess eventually one day, when they were sitting around talking about different country musicians or just musicians in general, and Blaze Foley was brought up, and I guess the idea for the movie kind of snowballed from there. But I would say Ben Dickey is definitely a really great choice for this role, because I would say he fits the description. Of course, again, I didn't know until after I did some research before watching the movie, and Blaze Foley, I guess he was this big guy, and who was oftentimes very kind and sincere, honest, and but unfortunately, I guess he also had like a dark side, and which I would say, to be fair, the same could be said about a lot of other musicians and artists. That always seems to like kind of coincide with the whole. Anytime you think about, say, like your favorite musician or your favorite writer or actor or artist, and especially if they're masters of their craft, whatever it may be, I'm pretty sure it's safe to assume that, it's kind of like madness and genius go hand in hand, or something along those lines. Yeah. So, I mean, that could definitely be used to describe someone like Blaze Foley. And it's brought up several times in the movie too. And so, I mean, again, the overall performance that Ben Dickey gave as Blaze Foley was great. And I mean, it makes sense, because, who better to play a musician than an actual musician? Not only that, but, who better to play this country style musician than an actual country style musician, I guess. Ultimately, yeah, it makes sense. And then, of course, Aaliyah Shawkat. I've seen her in several other movies, but nothing like, mostly like a lot of independent stuff, other independent stuff. And I was already pretty much a fan of her. And in this movie, she plays Sybil, I believe. Sybil, she's the love interest. She dates Blaze Foley for a while, and then eventually they get married. And at some point too, another thing I like about it in the movie, because it shows them when they actually went and they lived in this treehouse. I guess some friend of theirs told them about some treehouse. I don't know if he built it or if like some other people built it or something. But yeah, they actually lived in this treehouse, and for a certain amount of time. I don't know exactly how long they lived in this treehouse, but it was very interesting, because that's when, for me, that's when it seemed like Blaze Foley really, because there's really nothing else to do in that treehouse. So that's when, he's, all he could do was, focus on writing songs and just practice them over and over and over, and essentially, kind of try to perfect them and whatnot. And for me, I that was my favorite part of the movie, or at least one. Yeah, I guess to be fair, one of my favorite parts of the movie. And also too, you know, because I could really identify with Blaze Foley, you know, because it's that classic starving artist story, struggling musician story. Me being a musician, you know, I can totally relate. That's why, I mean, I like watching these kinds of movies, but especially in ones like this where it's realistic. Like, you know, you can tell they depict the struggle as being very real and also very raw. Because like in other movies, they'll show like, you know, say like in something like, I don't know, off the top of my head, like a movie like the one they did about the Doors, which I like that movie, but I wouldn't say it's like the best biographical movie when it comes to something like that about the Doors. But for me in that movie, it seemed to be a little too glamorized, as well as in other movies. In this one, it does have that element to it where some parts are, you know, glamorized just for the sake of, you know, not taking things too serious. But otherwise, for the most part, it's, again, like I said, very real, raw. And, you know, if you happen to be a struggling musician like me, like I've been for so many years, then it becomes very relatable. So, yeah, I'll leave it at that, you know, as far as that aspect is concerned. And also, too, I mean, I was surprised that in some other scenes where Blaze Foley is like playing at different bars, he had these moments where he would talk in between songs, and it was almost as if he was, well, actually not almost, but it was like he would get pretty deep and philosophical with different things. Sometimes he'd end up talking about the universe and, or just people, and like how, you know, the idiocy of people. Which that was, you know, also another favorite thing about this movie for me. And, you know, I mean, overall, yeah, I found Blaze Foley for me to be very relatable, you know, because he was just this musician living his life, doing what he loved to do, not caring about what other people thought about him or his music. I mean, granted, yeah, he has moments where he believed that people should have at least tried, you know, every now and then to pay attention to his music. But regardless, you know, he lived life on his own terms, really. I mean, hey, when it comes right down to it, at the end of each day, that's all any of us can do. That's all any of us can hope for, can rely on. You know, it's like, yeah, you know, so what? You know, we're not all millionaires. We don't all have fancy cars to drive around in, or fancy clothes to wear all the time, or, you know, we don't all always, you know, have necessities to rely on, like food, shelter. But that doesn't mean that, you know, we have to just lie down and die. Or it doesn't mean that we just have to completely give up and, you know, at least for me, you know, this is how I interpreted the bulk of this movie. You know, whether or not there was any actual kind of attempt. Well, I do believe there was. I mean, I do believe there was some kind of message to get across in this movie. Because towards the end, there's this very real, very poignant kind of line. And again, I mean, I guess it's not really a spoiler, but essentially, something along the lines of the fact that, hey, yeah, it sucks that we all, some people have these very serious problems to deal with. Yeah, a lot of people have very serious issues, very serious problems to deal with. But it doesn't mean that the rest of us don't have problems as well. Essentially, we all have our own problems to deal with, and we all have our own issues to work out. So, yeah. And for me, yeah, that's how I interpreted, again, the bulk of this movie, the story. And also just the life of, not only the life of Blaze Foley, but the life of every struggling musician, struggling artist, struggling creative person, And, again, just, I could go on and on about, how I was able to completely relate to almost every single thing, depicted in this movie, as far as when it comes to the creative process. Yeah. So, yeah, and also, too, the entire cast is great. They gave really strong performances. I can't even think of... I don't even think there was any, not even one weak performance. And also, too, Ethan Hawke himself, he's in this movie, but you can't really see his face that well. So, yeah, I mean, if you see it, you'll kind of have to pay attention a little bit. But, so, yeah, overall, it's a great movie, an awesome movie. As far as the rating goes, I'm going to give it 10 out of 10. I have to. It's my kind of movie, and, hey, my opinion of this movie could, yeah, you could say my opinion is biased because I'm also a musician. But still, I give it 10 out of 10. And also, too, my opinion could be biased because I also got to meet the actual actor, the star, Ben Dickey himself. Afterwards, there was this awesome Q&A session. It lasted for maybe 20 minutes or so, maybe 25 minutes at the most. And he talked about, how he got offered this role. And he also talked a little bit about his own music background. He before this movie, he was trying to figure out how to keep his own band together, and it was very hard for him to do it because the other members weren't able, they no longer had the same kind of passion for it, and that's when, yeah, his friend Ethan Hawke told him, pretty much, I guess, the gist of it is, offered him this part, and yeah, they went from there. Yeah, and then I got to meet him, got to meet Ben Dickey. Ethan Hawke wasn't there, unfortunately, but Ethan Hawke is supposed to make an appearance next week at the same theater here where I live in El Paso, Texas. The theater where I was at it's called the Alamo Draft House. It's a pretty cool movie theater. Very nice, very new and big and spacious. And they also have a bar that's connected to the lobby area. They have a wide selection of craft beers, a lot of beers on tap, and which was great. It was awesome. I only had one beer. I mean, 'cause I didn't want to be completely drunk before, while watching the movie. But it's definitely an awesome place, the Alamo Draft House. I believe they have locations in other cities. I think maybe just in the state of Texas, or I don't know, possibly in other states. I don't know. I'll have to look that up. But Yeah, and I got to meet Ben Dickey and shook his hand, took a picture with him. I told him too, as soon as I shook his hand, I said, hey, really great performance, man. And I told him I'm a musician myself. I've been pretty much a struggling musician for the past 17, pretty much almost 18 years. And, right away he told me, he's like, yeah, right on, man, right on. And he just told me, just keep on playing. Don't stop for anything or anyone. And I was like, yeah, no, definitely. And the only other thing I told him was, I said, yeah, I play mostly heavy metal stuff, but I'm also into blues and some country and jazz. And he replied with, he said, oh yeah, I know, that's cool. He said, I mean, they're all related. They're all pretty much the same, essentially. And I said, yeah, pretty much. And so, yeah, and then he gave me his autograph. He autographed this, little flyer postcard thing of the movie. And then he also gave me this autographed, it's like a record, like a very thin vinyl record. Or maybe it might be kind of not exactly vinyl, but something else like vinyl-like. But it has a single on it because he sang a lot of the songs for this movie. I guess they recorded him playing and singing several of the Blaze Foley songs. So yeah, on this one it's it's an actual record. Because I don't own a record player or anything. But still, it's pretty cool, it's, how could I turn it down, I mean, yeah, he was offering, pretty much the same thing to everyone that was there. And, but yeah, he told me, he's like, hey, you want me to sign this record here for you? And I was like, oh yeah, right on, man. So yeah, he seemed like a really cool guy. Again, he gave a really strong performance, and I don't know what else to say. It's an awesome movie. I had an awesome time. If for anyone, if you're watching this, or if you ever got the opportunity to attend any kind of movie premiere, even if it's not with, a big name actor or director or anything, I urge you to go and attend, if you get the opportunity to do it, because it's a very interesting experience. You get to, because unlike, when you just go to a movie theater, and you just go there and you see it, and yeah, the movie could be great and all that, but when it's something like this, and they actually have a Q&A session afterwards, and, you get a much better understanding of everything that went into making the movie, and ultimately, you walk away with a better appreciation for it. And so, yeah, that's how I feel about it. So yeah, that'll do it for my review of Blaze. I believe it'll be shown in other parts of the country by sometime next month. I want to say September 14th or 13th, or I don't know, mid-September, something like that. So yeah, once again, I give this movie, I give it 10 out of 10. And yeah, that'll do it. Thanks for watching this. Thanks for listening. As always, next time, don't forget, keep it real, keep on rocking, and peace.